Transferring from St. Mary's to Gonzaga may never happen in men's basketball. The new Zag point guard Tayla Dalton is proof that it can happen for Lisa Fortier's team.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, folks? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Today's episode of Locked On Zags is brought to you by Gametime. Folks, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Fantastic show for you today. Tayla Dalton is joining momentarily. She's a new point guard for Gonzaga women's basketball team, transferring from St. Mary's, spent 4 years with the Gales, hit the transfer portal, is coming to Gonzaga. We'll hear her talk about why she chose the Zags, why she loves the WCC, teaming up with her fellow countrywoman in Lauren Whittaker. They're both from New Zealand. We're going to hear all about that. Olympic coverage, fantastic stuff from Tayla, all coming your way in just a second. Well, I'm thrilled to be joined today by Tayla Dalton. Tayla is joining the Gonzaga women's basketball team for her fifth and final season of eligibility after spending the last 4 years in Moraga with the Gales of St. Mary's. And Tayla, that's kind of where I want to start the conversation here, because we don't see a whole lot of players play for both St. Mary's and Gonzaga in any sports. It's not something that happens all that often. Obviously, somebody who spent a lot of time in Moraga, spent the last half decade basically with the Gales. What was the process like for, first of all, just entering the transfer portal after spending so long at one program, and kind of how many programs reached out? What was that whole process like? And ultimately, what led you to come up to join Coach Fortier's program here in Spokane?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. I think I am the first to ever, for any sport, transfer between St. Mary's and Gonzaga. So got to start the trend.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, when I first went in at St. Mary's and COVID had happened, the goal was kind of always to take that fifth year, and I never knew whether that was going to be at St. Mary's or to transfer. I always thought, that transfer year is quite exciting and opportunity, and so I loved my 4 years at St. Mary's, and I could have happily stayed for my fifth year, but I signed up for 4 years. I'd finished that chapter, and I thought, why not try something new? So I put my name in the portal, and that was really hard to tell my coaches and my teammates. But once I put my name in that portal, it's very overwhelming. You kind of feel like a freshman again, but this time you know all the schools, you know the coaches, you know the players. So when you see a name or a number pop up, it's like, oh gosh. And yeah, a few weeks just on phone calls, emails, messages, like really, really grateful for how many schools reached out, especially when it's your own conference too, in the WCC. And I'll be honest, my original plan wasn't to stay in conference. However, the more you do your research and look at other conferences, I think it makes you realize how lucky we are in the WCC. I love the style of play, the caliber of players, the talent, the level. And then now with two competitors getting added in with Wazoo and Oregon State, it's going to be challenging. So when I got a call from Lisa here at Gonzaga, it's pretty hard to say no to Gonzaga. But again, being from St. Mary's and being the rival, I had a lot of people frowning at it. But I just decided I had to stick with my gut. And a big reason I came is just how professional this program is. These coaches, they've all been here for at least 10 years. The special connection this team has, and no matter how many players leave each year or come in each year, they're so consistent, successful. And then also the fan base here is too, incredible, awful to play against because there's just so many of them. But it's really incredible. But I just feel like for a mid-major school, it's just the professionalism just goes up a lot. And I'm so excited for this year. I'm happy to be here, and I'm ready to get to the tournament, hopefully.
I'm glad you mentioned the WCC side of things. I saw an interview very recently with Mike Nilsson, and he was talking about how the women's team has struggled to recruit because of the conference affiliation. That has been a hurdle on the women's side that hasn't been as much of an issue on the men's side for Gonzaga specifically, at least not lately. And the conversation that he had, he was basically saying, that we see players go to programs in power conferences where, the turnout for games is 300 people, and they're not going to play on a team that's going to make the NCAA tournament. And yet they would rather go there than go to Gonzaga, where there's, the arena's full every single game. A Wednesday night against the worst team in the conference, that place is still packed every single time. And so I feel like and of course they, make the tournament pretty consistently and are ranked and all that stuff. And it feels like that kind of conference hurdle for some people is insurmountable. And I think, for one thing, I think the Pac-12 falling apart, it's not a good thing, but I think it may help break some people who want to play on the West Coast are like, well, I don't want to go to Cal and have to, play at North Carolina, so I'm going to go somewhere else. And maybe that's where Gonzaga and some of the other schools in this conference can maybe pick up some of that. But I do feel like having the experience of having played in Spokane for multiple years really maybe helps drive that home, because I've been to women's basketball games at a variety of arenas. I've never seen it like it is at Gonzaga. And I think that having seen that has to help make you feel like, hey, I want to go somewhere where I know every single game there's going to be energy in the building that there may not be at other places.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I think, don't get me wrong, at St. Mary's, we were starting to get more fans towards the end, but our men's team, it was electric in there. There's not a seat spare. And you watch so many men's games across the states, right? And they're just packed. And then you turn over to the women's game and it's just not. And the last 4 years, every year I've come, of all our conference, Gonzaga just stands out by a mile. Just standing ovations every game. It's loud, it's energetic, the student section's full. And at the end of the day, you do want to play in front of people. Otherwise, it just feels like it's a scrimmage, another open gym, And I don't think people realize how much the crowd does impact the game, especially when, from St. Mary's coming here, it's tough when you're playing against, 6,000 fans not going for you. I do remember my junior year, we were here for senior night when all starting five said they were returning, and they did that video, I'm back. And I will never forget, I had goosebumps. I was on the other team and I had tears rolling down from my eyes. And I remember my coach being like, Tayla, we're here to play. I'm like, I know, that was just so emotional. But that's what the fans do here. They really get so invested and love the girls. And I'm really grateful to be a part of that now.
All right, folks, more from Tayla coming up about her role this upcoming season, teaming up with fellow New Zealander Lauren Whittaker, and why the WCC should be on notice, all coming up right after a word from today's sponsor, Gametime. Folks, minor league baseball season is well underway here in the dog days of summer. As somebody who lives about 10 minutes away from a local stadium, I love being able to make a last-minute decision to head to the ballpark. And that's why I use Gametime, because prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. With their killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat feature, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And if you're somebody who's concerned that you're going to buy tickets from a third-party app and they're not going to work, the scan's not going to work, it's going to be embarrassing, you might get turned away at the door. One of the best parts about Gametime is their ticketing coverage, which is covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the entire ticketing industry. Personally, I love having that peace of mind. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms do apply. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So you touched on it a little bit there, but how much did your familiarity with the Gonzaga program kind of play into your decision? And also, how do you think it's going to kind of help you acclimate to the program? Obviously, there are a handful of players who you competed against the last couple of years who are not going to be there. Bryn is gone, the Trunk twins are gone, but there's still a handful of familiar faces that you've played against, and obviously a system that you've played against for like 4 years now. So what do you think how much of an advantage do you think that potentially gives you in terms of being still a new player on a new team in a new system, but having seen it more than you might have at some other programs that I'm sure, gave you calls when you were in the portal?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that was why Gonzaga was so attractive. because when you've only got 1 year, you don't have a lot of time to develop into the system. And it takes a long time to learn a system and the IQ of what the team's trying to do. And from an opposition side, Gonzaga keep it simple, but they do it very, very well. They recruit the right players, but everyone in the team, when you're on the court, knows what you're doing. And so playing against Gonzaga, scouting wise, I've obviously got to understand their system well. However, what they do, no matter what game plan you do, they have the personnel that if you go and double team Vonnie, the Tron twins are going to be wide open, or Brenner's going to be wide open. If you cling to Brenner, there's a driving lane for Eliza. So I think that is a big piece that I already have a familiar. I mean, we've had to scout them for the last 4 years. I know their plays, the names of their plays. But being in the system myself, I'm going to have a lot to learn still. And then when you look at who's left, you lost 4 of their 5 starters. And those 4 players are some of the top in the nation. 2 of them got drafted, especially from a guard position. The Trongs and Brenner, I've got to know really well. And those shoes to fill are so big. And I will never replace them. I think what I'll try to do is bring my own, spunk to the game. And a lot of my game comes from energy and defense and being an experienced guard. I think I can help this team from that perspective. And then, gratefully, we've still got Mount, Vonnie, Esther, Claire. So there are a few returners. And I mean, post player wise, when you've got Vonnie running the floor in front of you as a transfer coming in, and Mount as well, it's just so exciting. I'm like, all right, I'm already looking forward to feeding my posts. They get doubled. I'm there ready to take a shot. So no, really attractive. And then again, I've seen how the coaches respond on the sideline. A big part of the game that people don't talk about is the way the coaches deliver news to you. I'm not someone that likes to be screamed at the whole time. So I'm not going to put myself in a position where I go to a school, where you're getting barked at the whole time. Lisa has a very calm head on her and coaches the game very well. And so I've seen that from an opposition side, and now I'm excited to see it from a player standpoint.
I think you nailed it on a lot of the things about kind of what coming into this program is like. And one thing I've noticed with this program in particular is there are often years where you see 4 or 5 different players graduating at once. And every year people have this conversation of, is this going to be a dip year for Gonzaga? Are they going to struggle because 4 of their 5 starters are gone? I remember when the Worth twins both graduated, when Laura Stockton was out the door, every year it's how are they going to, replace this amount of talent? And because they're not recruiting, 5-star, the best high schoolers in the country very often, that's not something that either Gonzaga program is really doing. What you see is Coach Fortier and the staff find ways to slightly adjust what they're doing to fit the new personnel while still building around the key pieces. And I remember I think Melody Kempton was 6th Woman of the Year, and then she became an All-WCC first teamer, and Vonnie was 6th Woman of the Year, and then she became an All-WCC first teamer. She became Player of the Year. There's this kind of next person up mentality that seems to really succeed at Gonzaga, while they also can dip from the portal or can develop players, who were freshmen last year, like Claire, who are going to step into bigger roles and just kind of continue to chug along despite sometimes having off seasons like this one where it's last year we recognized every single person who was on the team because they all came back. But this next year, that's going to look a lot different. But I know there's nobody panicking in that Gonzaga coaching staff because they know they got the pieces to kind of come in and fill that spot. And it sounds like you kind of have an idea of what role you want to fill around some of the other newcomers on the roster, as well as some of the players coming back like Vonnie and others.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when I was transferring, as much as I want to build something and be part of something, on my list, I only have 1 year. So I didn't want to go somewhere where we're fully rebuilding a team. Right. And so, when I was here on my visit, I had a great chat with Lisa and the coaches, and she said exactly that. I'm like, guys, we're losing 4 of the 5 starters this year. What does that mean? How are you going to be able to adjust? I want to get something done this year. I don't have time. And Lisa's like, Tayla, we have people say that every single year, and look at the trophy wall. And I'm like, you're not wrong. And she made a great point to me. She said, do you know what? Every year we don't play the same exact system. We adjust it to the personnel we have. And you don't see them over recruiting and bringing in transfer portals every time. And so that's something I really respect. And this year we're not going to have the exact same offensive strengths that they did last year, but defensively, like that's exciting, right? And yeah, there's going to be a lot of new pieces to the puzzle, but I think that's where Lisa and Craig and Stacey, Jordan, they all do such a good job that they'll help our personnel really fit in well this year.
You mentioned some of the stuff that you feel you're going to bring to the team, particularly on the defensive end of the floor. I know you had big steal numbers while you were at St. Mary's. When you kind of look at the early parts of the offseason and the practices and scrimmages that you've done so far, knowing there's still months and months until the actual season, like where do you really feel your strengths are going to kind of help elevate this program? Because nobody's going to be able to replace 3 incredibly talented players, 2 who were among the first 21 players picked in the WNBA draft. That's not the expectation that can fall on one person. But what do you kind of feel are the areas of strength that you're going to add to this team and kind of help elevate this program as they look to get back into the first couple rounds of the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely from an experience point of view, leadership, both on and off the court. I'm, like you said, I'm very aware I'm not WNBA level, right? And so I'm coming in here and doing the little and gritty things well. Defensively, if that means I get on the ball and pressure and make it easier for my post players, get a few steals and pushing that fast break, but also coming off the on ball and being able to find those options, whether I'm feeding the post or getting shots up. I've been working on my 3-point shot a lot. So I've got to be ready to shoot those. But yeah, I'd say a lot of it's going to be an energy piece, especially we've got a young team. And so also fast break. When you've got Vonnie and Mount and Lauren that's coming in that can run the floor that quickly, it's hard to defend. So whether I'm playing the wing or the point, just being able to get those fast break points, that will help a lot as well.
You mentioned Lauren. I wanted to talk a little bit more about her. I know somebody who is a lot of the fan base, the coaching staff, very, very excited about what she's going to bring to this team. Obviously representing New Zealand or has represented New Zealand in the past. What was there a connection there previously prior to you committing to Gonzaga? Is it somebody that you knew ahead of time, have played with before, and kind of what do you expect her to bring to this team and kind of excitement level getting a chance to play with her?
Yeah, I love any time I get to talk about Lauren. She's actually my roomie next door, so she can probably hear me talking about her. But Lauren is something special. I am fortunate enough to be on the national team, and she's recently just come up. We played in China together at the start of this year. And for her first debut as a tall fern, oh my goodness, absolutely crushed it. And so a big reason I did come to Gonzaga as well is having her here, building that chemistry for the national team. It's really helpful because that's what I plan on doing after college. But people need to watch out for her this year. And not many people know about her yet over here. And I think the fans are going to be like more than happy to see her on the court. She's working so hard this off season. She's a 3-level scorer. But not only that, she just has great energy on the floor, and she's a goof off the court. She's so funny. She's out singing in the shower probably right now. But yeah, having her here has already been like a built-in little sister too, which is really, really cool. And then with the national team stuff, we're on the same page, and I just feel really grateful to have her here. And all I'm saying to the rest of the WCC, watch out for Lauren Whittaker.
The opportunity for her to get another year playing with Vonnie too feels like a great opportunity to just be able to learn from somebody who's been in the system for so long, who has excelled in the WCC, who's excelled on a national stage, who's excelled on an international stage, as Vonnie is doing right now with the Canadian team. And it just feels like I think Gonzaga would have been in good shape without Yvonne, just because they have so much talent and they have some players who would have been able to step up in her place. But having her back, I think maybe eases a little bit of the pressure on somebody like Lauren, while just giving her another year to learn from somebody who I feel like she can really kind of emulate her game in some ways, and of course put some of her own spin on things. And it just feels like, again, we've seen this with Gonzaga in the past of, a fantastic elite player graduates or departs the program and you think, what's going to happen now? But there's already been somebody waiting in the wings. And certainly it feels like after Vonnie's gone, the Zags are going to be in great shape with Lauren and with a few others kind of in that picture as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Craig works down with the posts a lot. And, every day they're just working so hard. And like if Lauren was at any school, even as a freshman, she's ready to play Division I basketball. But it is nice when you've got Vonnie and Mount, ready to go ahead of her. And they challenge each other down there, which is the cool thing. You never want to get too comfortable or too complacent. And that's the nice thing about the environment we have in summer workouts right now. It's tough, but watching everyone get better, it's fun to see.
You mentioned your competition in international events and representing your country. Would like to hear a little bit more about that, and specifically, like one thing that Gonzaga has had quite a few players. They've had quite a few players who've done this in 3-on-3 tournaments, which I know you've done. In 5-on-5 events, they've represented their country. They've played for Team USA. We've seen that. Of course, we mentioned Vonnie as well. How much do you think it helps, not just from a the pride perspective of getting to represent your country, which I'm sure is just an extraordinary feeling, but how much does just that international competition help kind of elevate your game as you get prepared for another season of college basketball?
Completely elevates your game. I think college basketball is its own style of basketball in itself. But when you get on that international stage and you're playing against women that have been playing professionally for years, the strength, the speed, the size, it's tough. When we were just playing China recently, you're versing 7'1", and then you've got to come back and it's like, all right, how can I translate that? Or I was playing against Gabby Williams and, I'm like, wow, I'm basically playing against UConn right now. But from a 5-on-5 perspective, especially on the women's side, really, really helped my game. And then from a 3-on-3 perspective, I've been fortunate enough to play at World Cups and quite often come up against Hailey Van Lith and some of the other top 3-on-3 players. And I honestly can't promote 3x3 enough. I think skill-wise, you're exposed if you can't play one-on-one defense or if you can't handle the ball or shoot the ball. There's only 3 of you on the court. It'll be seen. And so that's also been such a cool opportunity. I always look at that basketball. I'm like, wow, this basketball's taken me literally around the world. And so, yeah, I definitely think Gonzaga's done a good job at recruiting internationals because now that's just that more experience that everyone has under their belt here.
I think it was last offseason that half of the players on Gonzaga's roster played in some type of 3-on-3 in the offseason. The Twins did, and I think there was a handful of other players who did as well. I know Callie Stokes did. I think Esther Little did as well. And I remember talking to some of them about does Lisa's offense or does anything kind of gel together with the 3-on-3 style? And you mentioned you're going to get exposed if you can't play one-on-one defense. And that feels like an area where playing 3-on-3 basketball consistently can help elevate your individual defense in a one-on-one setting, which obviously is going to translate to a 5-on-5 setting. Are there other kind of specific basketball type things that you think 3-on-3 helps you elevate your game and that maybe works within the Gonzaga system?
Yeah, I'd say your release on your 3-point jumper has to be pretty quick, especially because the shot clock's a lot shorter and you've only got 10 minutes to win the game. So the 3-point release has been faster, and then the physicality. O-boards are so important in 3x3, and so physicality-wise, they don't call fouls quickly like they do in 5-on-5. You can't be soft in there. You'll get hacked, and you'll be looking at the ref like, hey, what was that? They're like, no, we're not calling it. But then I think translating it to Gonzaga basketball, again, being able to come off an on-ball, being able to pull up in a mid-range, Lisa does give her players, if they prove well, a lot of freedom to play on the court. And, it's not about the step-back 3. It's going to be different this year. We don't have the Trunks or Brenner. But there's a good freedom and style of play. And at the end of the day, it's just basketball. It's not all about the X and O's. And you see that. You see because the girls look so comfortable on the court. And 3-on-3 definitely helps with that.
We're about a week out, a little less than a week out from the start of the Olympics. I want to talk a little bit about that. Just obviously, we talked about Yvonne already representing Gonzaga and, of course, Canada for that senior women's team. Are there other players or teams or anything that you're excited about watching with the Olympics? I've been tracking it a lot because there are so many Gonzaga players on the men's side, and there's a trio of them on the women's side, 2 of them who are playing 3-on-3. One's representing Canada, one's representing Germany, and it's a very cool opportunity, and I think kind of speaks to Gonzaga's ability to recruit internationally on both the men's and the women's side. There's I mean, not only 8, I think 7 players representing Gonzaga at the Olympics, 2 coaches. There's so many more that could have had those teams qualified too. Like there's just so many players representing their countries from Gonzaga. I think it's one of the coolest things about Gonzaga basketball, again, on both sides. So as you kind of get ready to watch the Olympics and kind of check out these teams, are there teams, players, things you're looking forward to kind of getting a chance to see as they get underway here?
Yeah, I mean, the Olympics, the pinnacle event, every young one's dream. I think, firstly, you know, when I hear the word Paris, I have a bit of trauma because we, at the Olympic qualifiers this year, we lost by 2 to get into the Olympics. We were up 12 against Puerto Rico, and then we lost in the last 30 seconds of the game.
Brutal.
So we saw that Olympic ticket, and it was ripped away from Lauren and I very quickly. But it puts more fuel in your belly, a bit more fire in your belly. But definitely going to be watching Vonnie kill it for Canada. 3x3, I've played against a lot of those girls. So being able to watch the 3x3 and 5-on-5. And then when you're looking at other sports too, as a Kiwi girl from New Zealand, our rugby sevens team and our rowing team always do pretty well. So the Olympics, during the Olympics time, you don't sleep because, you know, you're constantly flicking through the channel and every sport's exciting. So yeah, I'll be tuned into Paris a lot. I wish I was there eating chocolate croissants or playing, that's for sure.
Last question for you, kind of building off that a little bit, just the growth and the rise of women's basketball, not just in the United States. I think that's what a lot of attention gets put on right now. Of course, the college basketball game really blew up in part because of players like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and now they're in the WNBA, and we're seeing growth in terms of like TV views. And as we're recording this right now, there's just a new media deal for the WNBA, which just became announced very recently, and we're seeing this growth. But you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier too. It's spreading a little bit more internationally too, and you see these. Obviously, the Team USA roster for the Olympics is incredibly stacked, and also still struggled against the WNBA All-Stars because both those rosters are incredibly good. But we're seeing more talent outside of the United States as well, and it feels like as long as the game continues to grow here in the States, we're going to continue to see it grow internationally. Is that kind of a sense just in your lifetime, even of seeing it kind of start to grow in multiple places around the world?
Oh, for sure. I think, you know, as a young girl, USA basketball is kind of that elite level. So as internationals, we do all look to the States, and most people dream of going through the college system and then the WNBA. But yeah, wow, like the growth, especially the 4 years I've been over here. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, they're my age. Yeah. Kate Martin. You're looking at what all of these players are doing, and now social media, you're scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, and it's just women's basketball. But men's basketball doesn't come up on my page anymore. You know, it's the WNBA, it's college, but then even pro leagues in Europe and things that are coming up. It's so exciting to see, and I'm so excited to see where the future of women's basketball is going. And, you know, that's what I tell all my young ones back home, the ones that I've grown up playing with. I'm just like, keep riding the wave, because I'm telling you, the rewards that you're going to get by the time you get over here, it's going to be incredible. Like, you look at NIL deals now. Yeah. For some of these young up-and-coming girls, it's going to be life-changing for sure.
Thank you so much, Tayla, for coming on the show. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great season of Gonzaga basketball, as it always is. Really looking forward to seeing some of the changes on this roster, some new talent coming in. Really excited to see what you're going to bring to this program. I really want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on the show and kind of give some of the Zag Nation out there a chance to kind of meet you and get ready for this upcoming season.
Thank you, Andy. Go Zags.
All right, folks. Huge thank you to Tayla Dalton for coming on to the show. That is going to wrap it up for us today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. I want to thank all of you for making the show your first listen or your first watch of the day. Special shout out to those everyday listeners. Shout out to those of you hanging out with us on our Discord channel. Once again, it's free to join the Discord if you have not done so yet. There is a link in the show notes on both audio and video platforms. Be back with one more show this week, and then getting into next week, we're keeping you up to date on all things recruiting for the Zags. We're talking Olympics as they get officially underway over the weekend. Keep you up to date on what's going on with Anton Watson, Drew Timme, Killian Tilly, as those guys fight for roster spots next season in the NBA as well. Thanks again for listening, folks. And until next time, as always, go Zags.